Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. India is suspending visa applications in Canada as the rift between the two countries grows wider. How does this affect British Columbians planning to travel to that country? What about tourism and business visits? We're taking your calls. Are you or your family affected? We'll speak with an immigration lawyer, and Surrey Centre MP Randeep Sarai joins us in just a few moments. Plus, at 12:45, the courageous story of Harry and Valerie Jerome. Much celebrated for their impact on sports, they also faced horrible racism along the way. Valerie will tell us about her new book. I'm Michelle Eliot. Welcome to BC Today. And thank you for joining us on CBC Radio 1, live streaming on CBC Gem, cbc.ca/BC, and on the CBC Vancouver YouTube page. Well, the fallout continues from Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's accusation on Monday that there was what he called credible information that agents of the Indian government were involved in the killing of Surrey Sikh independence activist Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Nijjar had been wanted by India for years. He was fatally shot outside a Sikh temple in Surrey in June. Now, since Monday's statement, the rejection and reaction from India has been fast and furious, calling the allegations absurd and politically motivated. Both countries have expelled diplomats this week, and today, as you've been hearing, India's Visa Processing Centre in Canada suspended its services. It has a location in Vancouver. Arindam Bagchi is a spokesperson for India's External Affairs Ministry, and he said security threats were a factor in the decision.
You are aware of the security threats being faced by our High Commission and consulates in Canada. This has disrupted their normal functioning. Accordingly, our High Commission and consulates are temporarily unable to process visa applications. We will be reviewing the situation on a regular basis.
At the UN General Assembly in New York, Justin Trudeau told reporters Canada is focused on upholding international laws and supporting judicial processes.
And we're not looking to provoke or cause problems. But we are unequivocal around the importance of the rule of law and unequivocal about the importance of protecting Canadians and standing up for our values. That's why we call upon the government of India to work with us to establish processes to discover and to uncover the truth of the matter and to allow justice and accountability to be served.
That's Justin Trudeau speaking today to reporters at the UN General Assembly in New York. We're asking, what impact will the suspension of visa applications have on BC? How will this affect you or your family? What about its effect on work and students and business visits? We'd like to hear from you. You can give us a call, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 or email us, bctoday@cbc.ca. We'll take your calls in just a moment. First, Randeep Sarai is the Liberal MP for Surrey Centre, and he joins me now from Ottawa. Good afternoon, Mr. Sarai.
Good afternoon.
What's your reaction to India's suspension of visa application services in Canada?
Well, I think it will have a disruptive effect. It's a common season when thousands of Canadians or people of Indian descent that live in Canada or, travel to India to visit their loved ones, attend weddings, and attend functions. And so it is going to have a disruptive effect. We're hoping that this shutdown is temporary. We hope that India is able to open those offices up, as I think the safety and security of their officials is paramount for us as well, and they have been maintained, and so it is going to have a disruption on them, but I'm hoping that this will be a very temporary and short-term decision by India.
There must be a lot of confusion right now. Is your office getting calls today?
Yes, there is a lot of confusion. There's a lot of people's parents going, a lot of people's loved ones going. A lot of people have plans, so they want to know. There's also, I think, different processes. Some people have an OCI card, some people have visas. They want to know if they are also allowed to go or not go. So there's a lot of misinformation out there, and I think I'm hoping that India will clarify that very soon and allow those that are eligible to go. As you can see, Canada has maintained its position in granting visas. We have not disrupted that, and vice versa. So I'm hoping that India reconsiders this very shortly.
Okay, but do you think Canada will at some point act in kind and stop granting visas?
Look, I mean, Canada, I think, has been very fair. This is not a political decision. Canada was working towards a trade deal with India. Canada had sent, half a dozen to a dozen ministers to India over the course of this last year because of the G20. Canada has tried to increase ties in every aspect, people-to-people ties, diplomatic ties, as well as trade deals. But unfortunately, the rule of law is paramount and is unequivocal. A Canadian is a Canadian is a Canadian. So when credible allegations or credible information from our law enforcement agencies indicates that India is involved in a murder of a Canadian citizen, then Canada has to take action. And I think Canada's action was to A, declare it, B, to expel a diplomat that they thought was, a mission head. So they did that. We did not do any other retaliatory action against any other citizens.
Okay, but do you think it should?
I think time will tell. Let's see if this is a temporary measure, if this is a long-term measure. Perhaps if it is long-term, maybe Canada will have to do further actions.
I just want to get to some of that confusion because people are listening to this wanting some answers. You mentioned OCIs; those are the Overseas Citizenship of India card, which, as I understand, is essentially a lifelong visa. What is your message? What is your advice to people right now who hold those?
Well, look, my advice to them is they're going to have to ask the Indian embassy or the Indian consulate in regards to getting information on that, and to probably look at their websites to see the information that they give. It's not something that, as a Canadian member of Parliament, I can give them advice on. My advice would be to consistently look at that. I would also advise anyone going to register to Canadians abroad. I think if you Google that, it'll come out, but it's essentially registering you in the country that you're destined to travel, just so Canada is aware that you're there, and families can feel secure if there's any issue of safety or security of them while traveling.
Okay. Now, since Monday, of course, these allegations has prompted a very strong and angry response from India. You're seeing the ramifications now. Justin Trudeau this morning was asked if he regrets his serious assertions, how far he went. He hasn't provided the evidence that he says is credible. What do you make of how he has handled this? Has he handled this properly?
I think he absolutely has handled this appropriately. I think Canadians expect this. When we have any investigation, the police, the law enforcement, and the government is responsible to maintaining the public safety. And if they see something of grave concern that needs to be alerted to the public when they have credible evidence, they are advised to do so. And I think the Prime Minister did the absolute imperative thing, which is once they learned and made sure it was credible information, that Canadians are aware, and for the country that is responsible to be aware. I think he did that first. He let, when he met Mr. Modi, know that this is the information they have, and he asked for their full cooperation, either to dismiss that or to get those responsible, held responsible. So I think this is what Canadians expected, and the response predominantly that I've received has been that he did the right thing, and it was something that they expected a leader of the country to do, and not to compromise just for trade or other purposes, and not declare this or not express this level of concern.
Are you concerned though that people who live in Surrey Centre, in your constituency, businesses that have been hoping for more trade? You talked about trade negotiations. If we still have time with our connection here, are you worried about the impact on that, on further trade?
I am worried. There's no question about it. I mean, I was talking to a trader just the other day, but his answer was very clear too. He said, "Look, trade is important, trade is vital, but if they come and kill one of our citizens in Canada, that trumps everything." So I think, if we're very concerned about Chinese foreign interference when they are trying to elicit information here or misinformation in Canada in our elections, I think the fact that another country can come in and kill a Canadian citizen on our soil trumps any other type of agreement that we have. And I think we're still maintaining our trade agreements that we have. We will honor those, and I'm hoping India will honor those. But before we do anything further, I think the rule of law and international decorums and the Vienna Convention has to be maintained. When we uphold our end of the bargain, that we expect India to do the same.
It sounds like you have confidence in the allegations made by the Prime Minister.
Yes, I have confidence. I don't think the Prime Minister would have made those allegations without getting the proper information from the head of the RCMP, CSIS, as well as his National Security Advisor.
Mr. Sarai, thank you so much for your time. I know you're quite busy with question period today. Thanks so much for taking some time with us.
Thank you so much.
Randeep Sarai is the Liberal MP for Surrey Centre. It's 12:16 now, 1:16 in the Mountain Time Zone. And we will be joined by an immigration lawyer for more on this in just a moment. And we're asking you if you have family or business ties to India, even if you were just planning a trip, we want to hear from you. How will the suspension of visa services by India affect you or your family? Has the suspension of visa services by India disrupted any of your travel plans? You can call us 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. By email, we are bctoday@cbc.ca. And we are talking about the broad implications of this latest retaliation in that growing diplomatic fight between India and Canada. And so joining me now for this conversation on India suspending those visa services in Canada is Raj Sharma. He's an immigration lawyer and former immigration officer. And Raj joins me now from Calgary. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. What do you make of this latest move from India?
Well, whenever we deal with international disputes, it's the ordinary people that find themselves caught in the crossfire. My thoughts right now are for my clients. My thoughts right now are for individuals like my parents that immigrated to Canada from India many, many years ago. So that diaspora is stranded in Canada without that overseas citizenship of India. There is no more e-visas. There is no more visa consular services for Canadians, ostensibly because of security concerns, but they won't even issue a visa to a Canadian, even if that application is made outside of Canada to a different consul. So we've got people stranded in Canada. They can't rush back if there's any sort of family emergency. We've got a massive disruption that's going to happen in terms of tourism, both sides. We're going to have a freezing of relations, and that will extend to the business world and obviously joint ventures. We're going to see disruption in terms of CBSA, Canada Border Services Agency, seeking to remove individuals to Canada because ostensibly the Indians will probably be reluctant to issue travel documents, at least in the near future. And we're probably going to see an increase in refugee claims and applications to remain in Canada by Indian nationals in Canada that perhaps don't want to go back to India.
You've outlined a lot there of possible ramifications. What is your office like today? What are the calls you're getting?
It's busy in the sense that my office handles a lot of litigation, so we handle a lot of deportation and removals. And so we've been dealing with CBSA on a number of files. And so one, shall we say, silver lining, I don't want to minimize the adverse consequences for other individuals, but one silver lining for this office is that removals will be interrupted, and that will give us an opportunity to file different applications to keep our clients here. So there's a silver lining. There's always this sort of strange impact. COVID itself had a strange impact on immigration processing that impacted every business line, but individuals will quickly realize this type of rupture in relations between Canada and India will have seen and unforeseen consequences. India is the number one source country of permanent residents to Canada. India is number one by far source country of international students. 40% of international students are Indian nationals. Out of those 40%, a significant percentage are from Punjab, which is, of course, the pivot point, shall we say, of the dispute between the current dispute between the government of Canada and the government of India.
And perhaps you can explain that for us, because the impact will be on people wanting to travel immediately anyway, wanting to travel to India. How does this affect then the students who apply to come to Canada, immigration? What is the impact coming in? We heard from Randeep Sarai that for now, at least, Canada is not doing the same thing when it comes to visas from India.
Well, Canada is doing the same thing, but in a different way.
What do you mean?
And I sort of predicted this. This is part of, as immigration lawyers, our clients always ask us, what is going to happen? And sometimes we're good. Sometimes we can foresee things. Sometimes we can't foresee things. One thing that I did sort of foresee a day or so ago was that there would be a drawdown in staff in the Canadian High Commission in India. So it's not a tit for tat in the sense that they've imposed or they've suspended, the Indians have suspended visa counselor services for Canadians inside Canada. Now, conversely, and they've cited security as a reason for that, the Canadians have also indicated security as a reason to draw down the number of staff and diplomatic staff and presumably visa processing staff out of India. India is the largest visa processing center outside of Canada. So drawing down staff there is going to cause backlogs and delays. So individuals in India that are hoping to visit, study, or join their family in Canada or work may well be impacted by that drawdown.
Okay, so because of the impact on the processes themselves, there will be that effect on people who are hoping to come here. That's really interesting as well.
Right, nothing formal,
Right.
nothing formal announcement. It's just, okay, we can't, we're gonna decrease our resources allotted to the largest visa processing center outside Canada.
Okay. Let's put out the phone numbers once again. My guest is Raj Sharma, an immigration lawyer, a former immigration officer, asking you, he went through some of the scenarios there. We're asking you, what impact will the suspension of visa applications have on you or your family? And what about if you're a student or you are a business person hoping to visit as well? What impact will this have on you? What are the questions that you have right now? Give us a call, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733, pound 690 on your cell phone. And the statement that was given from India this morning was important notice from Indian mission due to operational reasons with effect from September 21st. Indian visa services have been suspended until further notice. This was a statement from the BLS Indian Visa Application Center in Canada. And it gave no further details in the statement, but BLS is the agency that processes visa requests for India, including for entry, tourist, student, and employment visas. Let's go to a caller now. Christopher is joining us from Kelowna. Hi, Christopher. What are your thoughts on the visa suspensions, the application suspensions?
Hi. So my thoughts are, I think Canada is doing a very good job of being measured in this moment. To a previous one of your guests said, we've had a Canadian citizen assassinated on Canadian soil, and they're going through the process right now. I think they're looking at all the avenues and all the information. And at the end of the day, too, the Modi government has had a history of violence against its own citizens, specifically Sikhs. We live in a very diverse population in Kelowna. A lot of Indo-Canadians here, Sikhs and Hindus, and I think we're doing a good job of on the international stage and pushing this forward and making sure that a friend and an ally, a supposed ally, doesn't become a adversary. And I think we're doing the right thing. I think India is trying to save face at this point, along with the Modi government. You could see that a couple of weeks ago. I guess we didn't know the full gamut of what was happening, and that's hence why there was some consternation a couple of weeks ago while they were in India. But my question would be is, how does this cool relations in terms of people wanting to come to Canada to get away from violence, and then a foreign adversary, a foreign government, still committing violence on Canada? So to Raj, the question would be is, how do you get away from that, and how does he, as an immigration lawyer now, defend against that with clients? Because obviously it's happened here now, and it might happen again potentially.
Okay, Christopher, thank you very much for the question. You touched on this a little bit, Raj, in terms of refugee applications, but what impact will it have, and how do you explain that then?
Well, I guess Christopher's sort of question is sort of broad, but let's back up a little bit. Of course, we have to bear in mind that, as they say, the proof is in the pudding. So I suppose everyone right now, after that bombshell announced by Prime Minister Trudeau, everyone right now is waiting for further evidence regarding the implication of Indian agents or the Indian state in the assassination or murder of Hardeep Singh Nijjar back in June of this year. That approach of Mr. Trudeau is at odds with the approach of other heads of state, such as Erdogan in Turkey after the assassination of the gruesome killing of Jamal Khashoggi, where the Turkish state put out within a month or so detailed evidence linking the KSA Saudi Arabian nationals to the crime in question. So one part of me says it remains to be seen. The other part that in terms of specifically immigration options, you will very well have individuals in Canada that will be concerned in returning to India. You have individuals that have taken part in this referendum, this Khalistan referendum that India, of course, does not recognize. The Khalistan referendum is being put on by an organization called Sikh for Justice, which is headed by this sort of firebrand Gurpatwant Singh Pannu, apparently based out of New York. That organization was banned by the Modi government in 2019. So all these individuals that have taken part in the Khalistan referendum, and there's been hundreds of thousands of individuals in Canada that have voted, may well be concerned about going back to Canada, going back to India, since the card that allows them to vote is a card issued by a banned organization. And so you have immediately a concern, and probably a well-founded concern. And we do know that the Indians and the Chinese and other governments, the Iranians, the Venezuelans, the Ethiopians, the Eritreans, monitor their foreign diasporas in countries, including Canada and the United States and other countries. So that alone could lead to a rise in claims, refugee claims, claims for protection, claims to remain in Canada on humanitarian and compassion grounds. And this is not the first time. This is not the first time this has happened. The Immigration Refugee Board of Canada, where I used to work many, many years ago, was created in response to the Supreme Court of Canada decision in 1987 called Singh. That was after 1984, the attack on the Golden Temple, the assassination of Indira Gandhi by her bodyguards, the wanton destruction of property, rape, loot, and killings of innocent Sikhs in Delhi and other places, thousands of them, led to that first sort of wave of refugees and the creation of the refugee protection system in Canada. So this bears some hallmarks or some echoes of what happened in the 1980s.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much. And Raj will join us for a few more minutes after the news update here. My guest is Raj Sharma, immigration lawyer and former immigration officer with the Immigration Refugee Board, as he just said. And we are asking you, how will the suspension of visa application services by India in Canada affect you or your family? Did you have plans to travel, to visit with family, or travel for business? What are the questions you have right now? You can give us a call, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733, or pound 690. And we'll go back to Raj Sharma in just a moment. We'll hear from a travel agent as well on what they're hearing today. And we will have a feature interview before the end of the hour with racer, track and field star Valerie Jerome on her new book. That's coming up after the CBC News Update with Robert Zimmerman.
Good afternoon. One person is dead after an overnight fire in Prince George. Crews were called to a home shortly before 2:30 this morning. Firefighters found heavy smoke and flames coming from the home. There's no word on a cause. The RCMP have recovered the body of a young man missing in Windermere Lake near Invermere. The 26-year-old was swimming with friends last Saturday when he appeared to be in distress and didn't resurface after going underwater. His name has not been officially released. And 2 people have been hurt in the crash of a small plane on Vancouver Island. Comox Valley RCMP say the 2 were airlifted to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Police say the plane went down Tuesday near Wolf Lake in a rugged area just west of Highway 19. And now the forecast on the north coast, cloudy and windy this afternoon with a high of 15. Highs reaching 21 with sunshine and strong winds in the Peace. In the central interior, sunny with local smoke and a high of 18. Sunny in the Kootenays as well with highs up to 20 degrees. In the southern interior, a high of 21 with sunshine and local smoke. And for Metro Vancouver, Greater Victoria and the Fraser Valley, sunny this afternoon, windy in some areas, with highs up to 24 inland. I'll have more local news at the top of the hour. Now back to Michelle with BC Today.
Thanks very much, Rob. That's Rob Zimmerman in the CBC Vancouver newsroom. And we are continuing our coverage of the ongoing diplomatic spat now between India and Canada, and asking you, in light of today's announcement that India is suspending processing visa applications in Canada, there is an office in Vancouver. How will this affect you or your family? What impact will it have on work and student and business visits? Our phone number, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733, and pound 690 on your cell phone. And we have a clip now for you. Jatinder Dadro is the owner of Let's Go Travel and Tours in Surrey, and he has this advice for people with upcoming travel to India.
And Indian government also mentioned if you have approved visa, there is no suspension. Everything is good to go, except you are not eligible to apply for the new visa. Then it's issue. You has to be like they has to be go with their travel agent or the website to apply for the refund. There is no any other choice because they don't have any option. Without visa, they are not allowed to enter in India. Even like they deny at the airport for the boarding because you don't have a visa.
Okay, what do you make then, Raj, of the advice that he's giving there?
Well, that's right. A visa is the document that allows you to knock on the door of whatever country issues it. So if you have a visa, obviously you have the authorization to approach that country. The issue is that you have 700,000 plus Sikhs in Canada. Some are Canadian, some are not yet Canadian. And out of Indo-Canadians inside of Canada and their descendants like myself, I've only had a Canadian passport. And then you've got individuals that want to go back to India for, whatever their eat, pray, love moment or go to some yoga retreat. You're talking about something that will impact possibly 100,000 or more individuals that had plans or immediate plans to go. I mean, my grandmother passed away in December. My uncles, who are of course Canadian citizens, went for her final rites to India. All of that will be impacted. So this rupture, disruption, spat, whatever you want to call it, the silent casualties are going to be individuals that have nothing to do with what's transpired.
Sarah is joining us from Vancouver. And Sarah, you have a question? You have plans to travel, or you know people who are traveling or from India?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we sure can. Go ahead.
Thank you. I have a question about the effect of this new diplomatic situation on students entering Canada. I am a college instructor, and I am a little concerned about how students are going to feel in terms of their safety and how this is going to impact their entry to Canada.
Okay. Thank you very much for the question, Sarah. What are your thoughts on that, Raj?
Well, India did issue a travel advisory to its nationals in Canada, including students, regarding their safety or concerns for the safety or for them to take certain steps. I think that is laughable and sort of farcical if it wasn't tragic. Obviously, I don't believe that there's any safety issues. I don't think any Indian students, and we have many clients that are international students, and many of them are Indian, none of them indicate a fear for their safety in Canada. I don't think that that's the issue. The issue, I think, is going to be individuals that have applied and are coming to Canada for January admission, and they've applied for their study permit and their student visa, and they're like, okay, I've applied 4 months in advance, I should be good to go. That may not work out for them if Canadian visa processing is impacted by this rupture.
Okay. Thank you very much for that question, Sarah. Barbara is up next now, joining us from Vancouver. And what's your question, Barbara?
I'm a Canadian citizen, born in Canada. I'm planning a trip to India, to the northeast states for bird watching. It's already all pretty much booked. I have applied online for an e-visa. It has been accepted. I've received it in my email, and I have to present a printed copy when I arrive in India. I'm wondering if I'm still good to go. Is that or can they revoke that now, or what is my situation, please?
Yeah, you're in between there, aren't you? Okay, thank you, Barbara. I asked Mr. Sarai about this, but he said, these are questions for India. But what do you think, Raj?
Interestingly enough, I'm going to Egypt, and I was in a similar boat because Egypt had some issue with us as well and changed their visa processes. What I would say is this, and obviously only the Indians can speak to this matter.
Yeah.
That e-visa, however, with the Canadian passport, will allow you boarding on the carrier, the international carrier. Okay? You should probably check with the carrier first. I have an e-visa, it's issued, am I good to go to board? The carrier will let you know. Once you arrive in Canada, in India, you do have a visa. And so that should follow that process where you get that 30-day visa on arrival. There has been nothing indicating that those visas will not be honored. The only thing that they've indicated, the only thing that's suspended as of today is visa processing within Canada. So that's what I would say. I think your bird watching trip is good to go, but yeah, I would be, of course, nervous. But first call I would make is call the carrier, call the airline, and but I'm fairly certain the e-visa will get you there, and I'm fairly certain that the Indians will honor that e-visa upon arrival. Think of it as you've got basically a OCI, you've got a valid visa. So there's nothing in their announcement that indicates that they won't honor an already issued visa.
Okay. Thank you very much for that question. And just to wrap up with you, Raj, India, when it comes to the allegations about the killing, when it comes to the killing of Mr. Nijjar, they say they're absurd. They reject them and they say they're politically motivated. Your thoughts about, you've been kind of sending this message, hammering the message that the people, individuals are caught in the crossfire here. So what does this mean for people you work with and as this the diplomatic tensions continue?
Well, first I'll say is that I don't think anyone expected the Indians to say anything other than what they've said. I think it would be quite remarkable if they said something different. So the issue now is going to be is that how long is this chill in relations going to be? I, again, being the son of Indian immigrants and being a first generation, second generation Canadian, born in Canada, the implications, again, the ripples in the pond are it's very difficult to see all of the implications here. There's going to be first order, second order, third order, tertiary level consequences to this. So the only thing I can say is that I hope that this chill in relations, that both sides sort of step back and sort of accommodate the needs of Canadians needing to go to India, Indian, obviously visitor students, workers, and family members coming to Canada as well. And of course, trade. This is a trading company. This is an ally nation, and it's a democracy as well. And so one can only hope that there is a successful resolution to this. And I won't call it a spat. I'll call it a crisis. This is quite unprecedented. So one can only hope and pray that that spring is around the corner in terms of these two countries.
It's really good to speak with you this afternoon. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Raj Sharma is an immigration lawyer, a former immigration officer. It's 12:40, 1:40 in the Mountain Time Zone. And you're with BC Today here on CBC Radio 1, live streaming as well on CBC Gem, and on our website, cbc.ca/BC. You can find us on YouTube. That's CBC Vancouver. Well, to the wildfires now and the broader issue of climate change. The fire chief of West Kelowna is in New York and urging world leaders to do more to combat climate change. Jason Brolin was part of a Canadian delegation at Climate Week, New York City, an annual event that takes place at the same time as the UN General Assembly. And he spoke about his crew's experience fighting last month's wildfire.
I want to take you back with me. A hot, windy August night. We were surrounded by fire. Wind was driving it down on us. The sky was orange. We were dug in. It was the fight of our lives. 4 weeks ago, my community was devastated. A firefighter said to me afterwards that it was like fighting 100 years of fire all in one night. We saved people and their properties, sometimes by the smallest margin. The police knocked on thousands of doors to get people out. They crammed entire families into their police cars and then drove through flames to escape. We ordered over 10,000 people to get out that first night. My family and I included. My wife and daughter left town. I stayed behind. That was the plan that we practiced, and now we were doing it. Some people made it to the lake, their only option to survive in the water. They were rescued by a boat. A burn victim walked into the fire hall. The toughest decision a fire chief can make is to ask his people to put their lives on the line. At 2 a.m. that morning, I went to the line to be with my men and women. We made tough decisions. The fire eventually grew to 14,000 hectares behind my community. The weight of putting your people in harm's way is something that we prepare ourselves to do, but I haven't stopped thinking about that decision since. When the fire behavior we experienced came to town, firefighters should have been killed. But instead, we saved an entire street of homes with a crew of 8 and garden hoses. And that wasn't just once, it happened in dozens of locations for 3 days straight. $10,000 worth of sprinklers and pumps were placed on our brand new water treatment plant, and it saved that $75 million critical infrastructure. It took 12 years for my community to get that built. And I'm so happy to say it's going to start providing clean drinking water in just a couple weeks. Exactly to the day 22 years ago as a young firefighter, I was trapped in a neighborhood with my crew fighting a similar firestorm just across the lake. That was supposed to be a once-in-a-career fire, but it's happened to me twice now. What is going on? Climate change became very real for West Kelowna on August 16th. One of my fellow fire chiefs, one of my friends, Chief Darren Lee, said during this fire that firefighters have been warriors for thousands of years, stepping up to protect their villages. But today, these warriors are doing things that we never imagined on a scope and scale that's nearly impossible for us to be successful against. Over $20 million was spent reacting to my fire, not to mention the insurance losses, which could be triple that. What could we have accomplished if we used that same amount of money proactively? We're spending the money on the wrong end of the problem. That's a bit about me and my team and the 36 hours that felt like 100 years. Someone told me during this event that people are put in places for a reason. Through this event, I found my reason, but I hope that my experience inspires you as leaders to find yours and make the change we need. Thank you.
36 hours that felt like 100 years. That's the fire chief of West Kelowna, Jason Brolin. He was speaking at a United Nations panel in New York, and his comments come as the community mourns the deaths of 4 firefighters in BC. They were killed in a crash outside Kamloops on Tuesday morning. They were BC Wildfire Service subcontractors and were heading back from firefighting when the pickup truck they were in collided head-on with a semi-trailer. It happened on Highway 1 near Walhachin, west of Kamloops. Tributes have come in from political leaders as their deaths add to the grief of the most destructive wildfire season in our province's history. It's 12:45, 1:45 in the Mountain Time Zone. You're with BC Today here on CBC. I'm Michelle Eliot. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Well, Valerie Jerome is a retired track and field star, coming from a legendary track and field family. She competed for Canada at the 1960 Rome Olympics, at the Commonwealth and the Pan American Games, and her brother, the famed Harry Jerome, was a bronze medalist at the 1964 Tokyo Olympics and set a total of 7 world records throughout his career. And her grandfather, John Howard, was Canada's first Black Olympian. It is a storied tale for this family, but one that also includes facing horrible racism. And Valerie details her family's struggles and successes in a new book. It's called Races, The Trials and Triumphs of Canada's Fastest Family. And Valerie joins me now here in our studio. Hello, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It's really good to speak with you. This can't have been an easy book to write. Why did you want to share this part of your story?
Well, actually, when I wrote it, it was, I won't say easy to write, but it was bursting to come out. I wrote this 32 years ago and have been in search of a publisher for these 32 years. And when I sat down to write it, I felt that there was so much grief bottled up in me that it had to come out. And my younger brother had just recently died and had left me some money to take the year out of school. And I wanted to tell his story, as well as Harry's story, as well as the story of my family. And so it actually burst out and it poured out of me for 4 months. I don't think I got out of my nightgown for 4 months.
Just writing these stories bursting out of you. How did those experiences, moving to North Vancouver in the 1950s, how did they shape you and your family?
Well, my family was shaped by a lot of racism that had been dealt out before we even moved to North Vancouver. My grandfather had faced a great deal of racism in his athletic, in his entire life, but he ran in the 1912 Olympics for Canada. Yes. He was a man who really struggled with the very overt and acceptable racism of his generation. And my mother was his eldest child. She suffered a great deal of racism that I struggled to come to grips with in this story, in as much as my mother never wanted to talk about this Black man who was her father. She, in her own way, struggled with her relationship and her identity with him. So by the time we moved 1951 from Winnipeg to North Vancouver, we knew what racism felt like. But coming to North Vancouver was a bit surprising. We hadn't anticipated the petition in the neighborhood. We hadn't anticipated the children
to not move there.
Yeah, we hadn't anticipated that the welcome would be so unwelcoming, that we were stoned from the school grounds and didn't get to school on the first day because the students were armed with stones and they used them, and they were expressing the anger of their parents whose petition had failed at City Hall, a petition to block our moving to the neighborhood. So racism wasn't new, it was just at a more overt level by the time we moved to North Vancouver. Yeah.
I'm so sorry for your experiences.
Well, our country was built on racism. You know, the Indigenous people were moved off their lands, their homes, hidden away in residential schools and on reservations that weren't necessarily the most desirable land. We blocked people of color from immigrating to this country. You know, up until about the 1930s, we were begging Europeans continually to move here, to take over, be farmers in Saskatchewan, Manitoba. We advertised all over Europe to bring in white people. And at the same time, Indigenous people were locked away. Black people were limited to 100 immigrants per year. And South Asians and people from Ceylon were limited to 50 immigrants per year. So the country was really set up to be as unwelcoming as it proved to be. You know, it was meant to be a white country.
How did you reconcile that with representing Canada as a star athlete, you know, you and your brother?
Well, it's interesting because, you know, our days were not happy ones at school. I mean, I enjoyed the classroom once the door was closed and, you know, we were in our desks. I did have some fine teachers along the way. But, you know, things weren't happy at home either. You know, my mother having great difficulty adjusting to her life as it turned out to be. And so finding track and field was magic. We trained at Brockton Oval in the beautiful Stanley Park. It was easy to reconcile that because there, when your flag goes up for a medal at the Pan American Games, you're from Canada. You're not a black Canadian. You're a whole, real Canadian, not just a hyphenated Canadian. So the world of athletics not only provided us this free and easy, very happy place to be and to release all this pent-up energy, it was also something that honored us as full Canadians, not hyphenated Canadians. So.
Did you and Harry talk about that?
Oh, yes. Harry was always talking about the flag going up. That was one of his goals his whole life was, you know, watching the flag go up. What he really wanted was opportunities for everybody in the country to have that opportunity to experience the freedom you get with sport, to get the freedom to represent your country as a whole Canadian. That was very much a part of his mindset.
Wow. And here you are now talking about this and really revealing a lot of the pain that you had. There's a broader discussion around racism that's really come to the fore since 2020, the murder of George Floyd. What do you hope? And at the same time, you know, we also heard that Canada, there's this false idea that we're not like the United States when it comes to racism. What do you hope people learn or take away from your book? That here's this family that is so famed for achievements, and having faced such horrible racism. You know, what do you hope people take away?
Well, I don't know that very many Canadians even know about us, believe it or not. You know, it took me 32 years to get a publisher, and as you say, it was tragic that it had to be the death of George Floyd on our television, the murder of George Floyd on our television screens, that allowed Canadians to open their thinking a little. But for Canadians in Eastern Canada, you know, going to a publisher there, it would be like, well, I've never heard of Harry Jerome, as if they only publish books about people they know. And I think that there is a very large story to be learned here. I think that Canadians, perhaps they're unconscious of some of it. It's hard to believe, but I do think that they don't see us as being part of their tribe, white Canadians. You know, when they read things, if you lived in Toronto and you can say, well, I never heard of Harry Jerome. For all of the 1980s and 90s, there were the huge Harry Jerome Awards in Toronto, and every year I would meet the Prime Minister there and the Lieutenant Governor and the Governor General, and it was a big deal. And the newspapers would print whole sections based around the Harry Jerome Awards, who the winners would be, who the nominees had been. And yet, I think for most white Canadians, they look at that newspaper and they see pictures of black people. That's not their tribe. It's like me looking at the comic books, the comics in the newspaper. I just keep turning the pages, and I think a lot of Canadians are like that. They're not our tribe. We just turn the page. So the story you might like to think is out there, but I personally don't think it's out there at all. And I think people do see it as very separate. That's why, you know, the police can walk up to a provincial court judge here, an 80-year-old man, and attempt to arrest him as though he's a 39-year-old man, because they don't see any difference with us. We're just a block of people who are colored, and either they don't read about us or they don't know that we're actually individual people. Now, of course, I'm not saying that is relevant to all white Canadians, certainly not, but I think there's a fair amount of that out there.
You're referring to the case of Justice
Selwyn Romilly, yes.
You know, I know the name Harry Jerome very well. I grew up in North Vancouver, and so definitely the legacy is very familiar to me. What do you hope then, given this new context, new to readers, is the legacy of your family, of yourself, and of Harry?
What do you mean? What do I?
We know your family as the fastest family, as a racing family. But given this, then, do you hope to make an impact on that conversation?
Yeah, I hope it will make an impact. I do think, to some degree, when I look at the black athletes of today in Canada, of whom I'm so proud, Andre and Marco and these decathletes, I'm so proud. I think. Their entrance into the lives of Canadians is having a larger impact, and I think that that's a good thing. I think that my story can give the backstory to how these current athletes have got there. I like to think it can make an impact, but they have to pick it up and read it. They have to choose to read it, and it doesn't necessarily mean because the book's out there that it's going to be read. I'm hoping people will read it.
Well, I'm sure you paved the way for the likes of Andre de Grasse. What a pleasure to speak with you, and I've learned a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Valerie Jerome, a retired track and field star. Her new book is Races, the Trials and Triumphs of Canada's Fastest Family. She has a copy here with her today as well. That's it for our show today. Thank you so much to everyone who joined us on the program. Thanks to all our callers and our emailers as well. You can always let us know what you think. bctoday@cbc.ca. You can listen to the show again on the CBC Listen app or watch us again on demand on the CBC Vancouver YouTube page. I'm Michelle Eliot. Thank you so much for listening to the program and watching us. I hope you have a great afternoon. We'll talk tomorrow.